What celebrity is both a terrible artist and a terrible person? Randy Jackson from American Idol. This didn't happen to me but to my brother. He used to work as a waiter at a high-end Chinese restaurant, and one night, lo and behold, in walks Randy Jackson with his 2 bodyguards. He had the bodyguards do all the talking to the wait staff and even had the audacity to attempt a skip out on his $150 tab. As Randy and his posse were pulling up to exit the parking lot, my brother jumps out in front of them and demanded them to pay their tab. He paid the tab but didn't leave my brother a tip. He's paid millions upon millions of dollars, but doesn't have the courtesy to leave a tip, let alone try and skip on a tab. Fuck him. In the late 90s, a very famous artist developed a successful franchise around his work. He even opened several officially licensed art galleries with his name on them. I've never been a fan of his work, but my mother was. So when I had a chance to visit one such gallery in Boston, a friend and I went to check it out. I was hoping to find a small print as a gift for her. I should have turned about face as soon as I heard the screaming from outside, but I didn't. As soon as we crossed the threshold of the doors, bam! There he is. Thomas Kinkade himself is screaming at this poor female intern, calling her names and humiliating her in front of a gallery full of about 4 to 6 people. She looked like she just wanted to go home and hide, and I swear she turned and looked at me with a help me expression. We noped the fuck out of there as fast as we could, and I later learned that he had a track record of abusing women pretty much all his life. Edited for spelling. Edit 2. A few have asked why I didn't try to stop him, which is a fair question. For context, was a teenage girl when this incident happened. What do you honestly expect a frightened teenage girl to do to stop a drunk grown-ass man who was twice my size? There's a very good chance he'd have turned his abuse onto me. Furthermore, this incident happened about 2 months after Columbine. What do you think would happen to a teenage girl wearing black lipstick and a Marilyn Manson shirt, just for saying something? Not only could Kinkade have started abusing me, but if someone decided to tell Boston PD that I was acting aggressively just for wearing a shirt, then it'd be his word against mine and I'd have been taken to juvie with no questions asked. When I read late 90s and that your mother was a fan, I whispered Kinkade. My mom loves Christmas, almost as belligerently as my sister does. They are both violently festive women, who cannot own enough Christmas stuff. They both have a strict no Thomas Kinkade ever policy. Kinkade-themed items will be promptly regifted elsewhere. They're onto him. Same. I love Christmas but misunderstood Kinkade at first. He was billed as the artist of light and for some ungodly reason, I thought this shit glowed in the dark. I love glowy things even more than Christmas and I found that cool as shit and bought some trinket or another of his. Imagine my disappointment when I realized that it did not glow in the dark and also was a pile of non-glowy s. Arguably, his only real talent was for marketing. He pandered to a specific social and economic demographic, created an image for himself, and produced a palatable product that catered to them. He also made the smart business decision to market a soft and safe product during a time of significant social turmoil, Rwandan genocide, the Monica Lewinsky scandal, Sarajevo, Columbine, etc. He was still an alcoholic, abusive piece of shit human. Edited for spelling. I was also reminded recently because of Norm Macdonald's passing, how he and Artie Lang were trying to keep an eye on Chris Farley at an SNL after party because he was spiraling downward and saw him disappear into a bathroom with Andy the Dick and come out flying high. It's like he's on a mission to kill SNL cast members. I go into a psychiatric clinic for a week, and I come back to discover this. Goddamn, what else did I miss? Edit. I try to be as candid about my medical experiences as possible to help show there's no shame in getting help when you need it. I'm transitioning, so when I let someone new know, I make sure they know if they have any questions about what it's like. I give them my honest answers. Are they applicable for every trans person? No, but I still share my experiences as well as anything else I've learned from others. Same goes for my mental health. My depression and anxiety are particularly nasty, but I try to be as open and honest as I can be. I just hope that those that need help hear what I say and feel comfortable and confident enough to approach their doctors for any help they might need. Allow me to explain exactly why Hitler's artwork was bad, since this discussion comes up every time it's mentioned on Reddit. The trouble with Hitler as an artist is that he clearly had a flair for architectural landscapes, but he wasn't willing to put in the work to master the fundamentals. The perspective of his buildings were off, with architecture that didn't make sense. These are very basic mistakes that should be fixed at the sketching stage, but he would ignore them and finish his paintings with these fundamental flaws intact. This was noticed by the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna. They didn't reject him outright, they offered him the chance to study in a lower-level course, and then apply again once he had improved. But Hitler wasn't willing to do that, and so he gave up on art completely instead. I know we want to think that because Ellen is an asshole that she's awful in every other facet of her life and career too. But TBH, I don't agree with this. Her voice work in Finding Nemo was really good. Her earlier stand-ups were pretty funny in the context of their contemporaries. Her interviews earlier on in her talk show were pretty good. It took a lot of work for her to keep a career in entertainment after coming out in the mid-1990s. Apparently every single person on Reddit was some kind of sage who looked into her dead eyes and always knew, but I'm going to out myself as someone who was pretty surprised and disappointed over the years to hear the negative stories. Brown was driving a vehicle with Robin F. as the front passenger on an unknown street in Los Angeles. Robin F. picked up Brown's cellular phone and observed a 3-page text message from a woman who Brown had a previous sexual relationship with. A verbal argument ensued and Brown pulled the vehicle over on an unknown street, reached over Robin F. with his right hand, opened the car door and attempted to force her out. Brown was unable to force Robin F. out of the vehicle because she was wearing a seat belt. When he could not force her to exit, he took his right hand and shoved her head against the passenger window of the vehicle, causing an approximate 1-inch raised circular contusion. Robin F. turned to face Brown and he punched her in the left eye with his right hand. He then drove away in the vehicle and continued to punch her in the face with his right hand while steering the vehicle with his left hand. The assault caused Robin F.'s mouth to fill with blood and blood to splatter all over her clothing and the interior of the vehicle. Brown looked at Robin F. and stated, "I'm going to beat the sh out of you when we get home. You wait and see." The detective said Robin F. then used her cell phone to call her personal assistant Jennifer Rosales, who did not answer. Robin F. pretended to talk to her and stated, "I'm on my way home. Make sure the police are there when I get there." After Robin F. faked the call, Brown looked at her and stated, "You just did the stupidest thing ever. Now I'm really going to kill you." Brown resumed punching Robin F. and she interlocked her fingers behind her head and brought her elbows forward to protect her face. She then bent over at the waist, placing her elbows and face near her lap in an attempt to protect her face and head from the barrage of punches being levied upon her by Brown. Brown continued to punch Robin F. on her left arm and hand, causing her to suffer a contusion on her left triceps, that was approximately 2 inches in diameter, and numerous contusions on her left hand. Robin F. then attempted to send a text message to her other personal assistant, Melissa Ford. Brown snatched the cellular telephone out of her hand and threw it out of the window onto an unknown street. Brown continued driving and Robin F. observed his cellular telephone sitting in his lap. She picked up the cellular telephone with her left hand, and before she could make a call he placed her in a headlock with his right hand and continued to drive the vehicle with his left hand. Brown pulled Robin F. close to him and bit her on her left ear. She was able to feel the vehicle swerving from right to left as Brown sped away. He stopped the vehicle in front of 333 North June Street and Robin F. turned off the car, removed the key from the ignition and sat on it. Brown did not know what she did with the key and began punching her in the face and arms. He then placed her in a headlock, positioning the front of her throat between his bicep and forearm. Brown began applying pressure to Robin F.'s left and right carotid arteries, causing her to be unable to breathe, and she began to lose consciousness. She reached up with her left hand and began attempting to gouge his eyes in an attempt to free herself. Brown bit her left ring and middle fingers and then released her. While Brown continued to punch her, she turned around and placed her back against the passenger door. She brought her knees to her chest, placed her feet against Brown's body and began pushing him away. Brown continued to punch her on the legs and feet, causing several contusions. Robin F. began screaming for help and Brown exited the vehicle and walked away. A resident in the neighborhood heard Robin F.'s plea for help and called 911, causing a police response. An investigation was conducted and Robin F. was issued a domestic violence emergency protective order. Brother is a rapist, husband is a rapist who refused to register as a sex offender, he's on the register for life. They harassed his victim to try to make her lie about it happening. She then made threats to then doxed multiple reporters for asking about the fact she spread swole bald anti-vax bullshit. Fuck her, fuck him, fuck them. Marilyn Manson. Typical controlling/abusive mall goth try-hard. His music has always sucked and was about as dark and creepy as a well-lit room. Wanna see a Manson concert? Just imagine your fat drunk uncle stumbling around on stage rambling on and on about how cool it is that he's too fucked up to actually perform, while putting an emphasis on the word fucked like he's a 9-year-old that just learned the word and thinks he's a rebel for saying it. There, saved you some time and money. I cuss and I do drugs. I'm fucked up. Yeah, okay buddy, lol, you abuse young girls and make dumb music. There's this bully woman in my town who spends all day every day talking shit to people on the community Facebook pages. I call her Chrissy Teigen of the Rockies and laugh as locals rip her to shreds in the threads of her own comments like she's not even there, knowing she gets a notification for each one. And then when she finally got called out for it, she made a whole "I'm a changed person since then, that wasn't me" non-apology and said, "I understand if she doesn't want to, but if the victim would like to talk to me and get closure, I really want to apologize personally." The victim has still never been unblocked by Chrissy Teigen on social media, so she is literally unable to reach out to her on her main accounts. And she emailed her agent, met with dead silence. Andrew Lloyd Webber. Although he's responsible for the Cats musical, and therefore the movie itself, there's this musical he made about trains that sing. So, the actors had to sing, dance and act while they're wearing skates. Once an actress suffered this terrible fall and broke a leg, not just ending her career in a very second, but Webber's company denied to get responsible for that and denied to cover any kind of monetary damages or just to help her with the medical processes. I mean, once he might did the Phantom of the Opera's musical and some of its songs re cool AF, but that doesn't mean he can be such an asshole with his workers. He can get his freaking piano or whatever right inside his asshole, fuck him. Oh, interesting answer. I hadn't considered her. Before she was popular a few years ago, I liked her stand-up. Again, the really early stuff. Once she started getting her own specials, shows, and movies, her quality tanked. It wasn't selling out, but more like she didn't have the horsepower to generate enough good content fast enough. Then the plagiarism accusations arose and I lost any admiration I once had for her. I don't know of any stories about her being a terrible person, aside from the plagiarism stuff. However, I wouldn't doubt that the fame went to her head and she became really stressed, which is a bad combination for anyone. I wouldn't have agreed with this answer early in her career, but now it's probably a reasonable answer. Actual artist, Anish Kapoor. I see a lot of actors listed here, so I'll list directors instead. Lars von Trier, Tarantino. I know some of you like his movies, but I find a lot are pretty boring or gimmicky, and having a gimmick that you call a style doesn't make it good. Fight me. Woody Allen, again, boring, gimmicky, pretending to be deep when it isn't, etc. And the reasons they're terrible people, of course. Von Trier has a long track of violence and abuse of women. Tarantino is very closely tied to Weinstein, admitted he knew what was going on and didn't do anything. Other sources like Anthony Bourdain say it was more than that and that he may have been actively complicit. And Woody Allen is generally a shit human being, but he also married his adopted daughter as soon as she was of legal age, suggesting he groomed her, and was also accused of sexually abusing his other daughter when she was 7. Now you know, a few more people to not look up to. Just minor additions. Not defending or criticizing. Cocaine is a song by his hero, J.J. Cale. They even played it together live. I feel like most people know where Crossroads came from. Maybe not then, but that was commonplace as the Brits took to American blues before American audiences did. Led Zeppelin/Rolling Stones being two of the greatest examples. He didn't just want to F Layla. He eventually married her. Everything surrounding that is obviously another thing, lol. Thank you. The Oxford Dictionary should have a photo of Eric Clapton next to the word cunt, racist, lunch cutting, anti-vaxxer, the list goes on. And as a guitar player, he's not fit to change Hendrix's strings. He hasn't got an ounce the feel that Knopfler has. He hasn't got a fraction of the vocal ability of Lindsey Buckingham, who also plays better as well. Most his hits have been stolen or appropriated. Most overrated artist of his era, and definitely the shittest bloke. Cunt.